Week 11, so good to see you. Green Bay Packers and Tennessee Titans leading things off here in Week 11 in the NFL, and it's the Titans with a convincing 27-17 win here on Thursday Night Football. Aaron Rodgers, stat line's not terrible, 24-39, 227, 2 touchdowns. Still can't get over that 3 Bills mark, but it was not the Green Bay offense that spelled the loss in this one. It was the Green Bay defense that allowed 408 total yards. Notably, Derrick Henry making up for 87 of those on the ground, had a rushing touchdown and a passing touchdown as well. Treylon Burks having the breakout game he's been waiting for. The rookie rideout, 7 receptions for $111, more than double his previous career high, having himself a career night in that young career. And Ryan Tannehill, the one dishing it out to the tune of 333, 2 touchdowns, and a pesky little INT. All right, let's dig in with CBS Sports NFL writer Tyler Sullivan. Tyler, taking a look at this game, the numbers are a little bit jarring when you look at the final box score here, especially on the Tennessee side, what they were able to accomplish offensively. But let's go big picture here, too. Tennessee gets a win on the road in a place that it's tough to play this time of year. Talk to me about the gravity of this win for the Titans, who on a standalone stage in primetime just sent a message to everybody.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like everybody every year sleeps on the Tennessee Titans, and then we get to about Thanksgiving, around Christmas time, and you're looking at the standings and saying, wow, Tennessee, they're vying for a number 1 seed. They're first in their division. They're in prime position to go on a run. And it just seems like that's always the case with Tennessee under Mike Vrabel. And, you know, that's to be expected. He's a great head coach, one of the best head coaches in the NFL in my estimation. And so when you look at this game tonight, it's exactly all of those things that you've seen, obviously grinding it out on the road. They were dogs in this game. I mean, this was a line. I think they were giving up a field goal at certain points. I think you might even been able to get it at a field goal and a half here. So when you look at what they were able to do, run the ball effectively, stop the run, and really kind of dilute things in terms of what the Packers do best offensively, it's going to be a tough out when you start looking at them in playoff situations. If Derrick Henry can actually be that workhorse that we've seen him be and remain healthy, I mean, he's running, he's throwing, he's doing whatever he can to win his team football games. So for me, that's the most encouraging thing. I still have my doubts about them as a legitimate Super Bowl threat, but when you look at them as a team in the AFC, they are going to pile up wins, and you go back just a few weeks ago, and what happens if Ryan Tannehill is healthy for that overtime loss to the Kansas City Chiefs? We're probably potentially talking about a team that just became the number 1 seed in the AFC, not just bumping up over the Miami Dolphins for the number 2 seed.
And here we see that AFC playoff picture. I want to have a larger conversation in a little bit here, but staying in the here and now with the result of this game, we know what Derrick Henry brings to the football field day in and day out. When it comes to Ryan Tannehill, it's not always as consistent. We saw 333 here, but there was an interception, if I may nitpick, early fourth quarter. And interceptions like that in big moments don't go unpunished by playoff teams. It goes unpunished here against Green Bay in this moment. But I guess I'll ask you the question that you were hesitant to answer on your own there. Is this a team that is capable of representing the AFC in the Super Bowl? We know they can win the division. We know they can be a 1 seed, but do they have everything you need to represent the conference?
See, that's the biggest question, and I think it's going to come down to Ryan Tannehill, and I think it's going to come down to Treylon Burks. I mean, this is an important game for him. Obviously, the breakout, over 100 yards receiving, and he was budding to this. In that game he returned last week, he had a 16% target share. Ryan Tannehill's looking his way. He's the first-round pick. He's the guy that's supposed to replace A.J. Brown. Hasn't got off to the start that they want him to, but maybe this is the start of something. And if all of a sudden Tannehill and Burks can start to get a little bit of rapport, that creates a whole different layer that teams have to deal with in terms of defending this Tennessee offense. I have my questions about Ryan Tannehill. Obviously, we saw last year their demise was Tannehill. All of those picks down the stretch, particularly in that playoff loss. And you start a little bit like you were saying tonight. As much as it didn't burn them, that was a pivotal interception. Questionable decision to run it on second, to not run it on 2nd and 1. You should have just continued to give it to Derrick Henry. But not only that, questionable decision play calling wise, but also a questionable throw by Ryan Tannehill. Burks was blanketed, and there were 2 other Packers defensive backs in the area on top of the defensive back that was covering Burks. I don't think you should throw that ball. And so when we're talking about a team that's maybe a little bit more high-powered than the Green Bay Packers. If we're talking about facing a Cincinnati Bengals team, if we're talking about other contenders in the AFC, a Miami, they're going to make you pay on that one. And so when you take a 10-point lead, you throw an interception, that's more often than not against a good playoff team. That's going to open the door for you to lose those games. So that's my question, my concern there with Ryan Tannehill.
And the moment is the only place that we will get that answer. So we'll see it here in January and see if those type of things continue to plague this Tennessee team, if that's where we do find them. But it's 337 passing yards to 8 different receivers. No matter how you chop it up, 4 of those passing yards did belong to King Henry. Impressive stuff here from Derrick Henry. But you talked about the rapport between Burks and Tannehill building. I guess if we're going to find a silver lining, there are a few to be found here on the Green Bay side. But when it comes down to Aaron Rodgers and his new favorite target here in Christian Watson, what they've been able to do over the last 2 weeks, the 5 touchdown passes, do you think this is something more schematic that we're seeing, or is Rodgers just identifying and picking his new bunkmate in the absence of any real talent there in the wide receiver room?
Well, I think it's just confidence more than anything else. I mean, you look at this play here on the broken play with a penalty, Rodgers is just throwing it up. I almost feel like he's not even throwing that a few weeks ago because he knows he's not going to catch it. And so for me, that's, I think, the biggest thing here. The faith that Aaron Rodgers has in Christian Watson over the last few weeks and his ability to just know that he's going to be in the area and at least give his rookie wideout a chance. I think this is one of the bigger what-ifs of the 2022 season. You go all the way back to week 1, first play of the season, Rodgers throws it up to Christian Watson, the highly touted rookie wide receiver, the speedster, has a clear touchdown, just isn't able to bring that down. The big what if there is, what happens if he catches that? Does that change the entire trajectory of the season? I don't think it's small thing, or I don't think it's hyperbole to say that. I think that all of a sudden that play happens. Rodgers has more confidence throwing to Christian Watson earlier in the season. As we've seen the last few days, Watson's capable of, for some reason, scoring 1 billion touchdowns. And so if all of a sudden that was what we saw earlier in the year, I think you see a much more efficient Packers offense with Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon in that backfield. And that's the biggest thing. Right now, I think it's a little too late for the Green Bay Packers in terms of their playoff hopes, obviously falling even further below 500. But Christian Watson's been encouraging. So if you're looking for a silver lining here, the rapport between him and Rodgers is solid. It's budding. It just may be a little bit too late to impact 2022. That might be more of a 2023 thing.
And as you take a look here, we are squarely in the what-if realm because it's all but over here for the Packers, who find themselves on that dreaded in the hunt graphic, and on the back end of it at 4-7 with the loss here on Thursday night. They also clinched the under in terms of their total season win total. It was constructed to be something different than this. So I'll ask you this question. How does Aaron Rodgers and Matt LaFleur and the leadership there in Green Bay keep this thing from going off the rails? Because it is a place where insults can be lobbed and criticism can be had. How do they keep this thing together here over the stretch run of the season with just, I guess, a sniff of playoff hope still alive?
Yeah, I don't even know if it's a sniff. I mean, yes, you can do the
mathematically not eliminated.
Right. So, yes, we're going to say in the hunt, mathematically. All that's code word for this team isn't making the playoffs. We all know that it would take a miracle for them to get in. And so the only thing that I think you can look at here is there's development. That's, I think, the only thing that they can start preaching here in terms of the offensive side of the ball. Obviously, we know that if this was maybe a year ago, you could start questioning, is Aaron Rodgers still even going to be around the following season? The fact that that's kind of out the window now, obviously signing that extension last offseason, you can start building that foundation even further with guys like Romeo Doubs when he gets healthy, Christian Watson as that continues to develop. And so when maybe you have Randall Cobb kind of go out the door, Allen Lazard, you'll see what happens. To me, it's developing those young wide receivers so in 2023 you can hit the ground running.
Tyler Sullivan, we have hit the ground running here in Week 11. We appreciate you for stopping by. And don't forget, the conversation continues on the Premier Pod in the